Horrible weather here in Washington, D.C. Good thing we're taking a meeting inside and we're doing a podcast with one of my favorite podcasters, Kara Swisher. She's the co-founder and runs Recode Decode. And we're going to talk tech and sports. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Kara Swisher, executive editor of Recode, and you're listening to Too Embarrassed to Ask. Give me your background a little bit.
Sure. I grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland, and my dad would always say, like, if there was a sport that you wanted to play that we could afford it, we'd get you in it. Mm-hmm. Lacrosse came to me at this convergence of AAU basketball and club soccer. Mm-hmm. I wanted to keep playing both, so I was given a spring sport to play. My neighbor gave me his backup equipment, same to my older brother, who's now my business partner, and we started playing lacrosse. Mm-hmm. The game has been the only team sport in North America to grow year over year at the participatory level for the past 15 years. Mm-hmm. The younger kids that are playing look at the peak of lacrosse in college. Right? So what you need as any sport, and you look at the big five is what they're called, but traditionally the big three of the NFL, NBA, and MLB, is they have to be top down. Right. So right now it's important to have that base layer of participants all the way through high school and college, but we've got to open up more and figure out how to commercialize it. It kind of reminds you
of skateboarding or exactly. All kinds of things that have sort of, or extreme sports. You knew him, right?
I definitely. Everybody plays lacrosse knows Paul Rabil.
All right.
Well, do you watch my YouTube channel?
Sometimes, yeah.
So you're on it right now.
I'm on it
so
right
Brett
now.
Roberts is here, and he's recording. But yeah, so that's an example of like how we invest in content. So we're lean because I self-fund everything.
Talk about the YouTube channel. Explain what you're doing.
Sure. So Brett's here, and he's recording, and what we look at around being thoughtful with social media is how do we storytell? What's the cadence of which we're delivering content to our audience, and then how are we engaging with them after the content's delivered? If you're smart around content creation and you're trading attention and you're offering free content, that when you build your businesses or you make investments that people will follow because of that loyalty and connection that you've made.
So if you're a sport, there's never been more chance to break through now with all these different platforms, but it's difficult. So talk about the challenge. So you're just a player.
Yeah. At least trends show that people are more geographically agnostic, so that they care less about the name on the front of the jersey and more about the name on the back. And the oddity in that is in sports you preach the opposite, and you have to commit to it to be successful as a team. What we look at is the players are the assets. Going back to Adam Silver, who I think is probably the best commissioner in sports.
One of our events.
Yeah, exactly. Is like they invest in their players, they don't restrict their players' voice, and they allow them to be activists. For me, I tell the story of what it's like to be a professional lacrosse player. There's a lifestyle component of what I do daily, and then there's the entrepreneurial component. So how do I think about it? Like everyone is looking to spend when the NFL deal is up. They're getting $6.6 billion a year across all the networks for rights. NBA is getting 2.2. All the soccer platforms overseas are getting at least a B. MLS is getting 100, NHL is getting 200. WWE just signed a deal with Fox yesterday that took their annual revenue for licensing fees from 150 to now 400 a year. 75% of live programming right now that's being consumed on television is sports. The other 25% is like the Oscars, the Academies, it's NCIS, and it's Big Bang Theory. So I think AR, VR's best positioning here in sports is educational. So that could be like skill development. Right. So Striver is a group based out of Stanford. That's where they started, at least they're out west, that uses VR specifically for athletes to take reps where there's no contact. So they create the plays live, and then athletes will throw the headsets on their B2B business, and they go rep after rep after rep, and they're improving their talent.
Maybe more of an AR experience, augmented reality, where you'd see the last three things he did, or what's the all kinds of history.
Well, I think that could help a lot. Like I play lacrosse, and as a defender, like if you could see it through the eyes of like a professional defender who knows what to do, knows when to slide, knows when to rotate and like a man down. That would just be like really helpful for a lot of people who don't
understand any of those expressions.
But I think it's great. So we're speaking the same language. What we've learned over time with Rabil Ventures, I mentioned my older brother Mike.
No, you have a venture firm too.
Yeah, so we have a small investment advisory company that we started about 5 or 6 years ago, and we really focus on, you hear this all the time, but the founders. So what are their soft skill sets? We look at our domain expertise, so that's across sports media. And my media is from my experience and relationships that we built. fitness together and fintech through mics, and then is this company solving a problem, and can we help with that problem? When I look at our sport, we need to be more inclusive. The women's game has grown faster than the men's game, so we need to talk about figuring out how to get women equally on the broadcast feeds of ESPN and so on and so forth. The challenge is that our equipment kit costs roughly around $250. I know some of the top manufacturers are working on lowering that price point. We need to work with our national governing body to get sticks in hands, and whether that's a sponsor that underwrites it or working with private donors like David Nealman, who helped fund the Utah program, like that's really important. But addressing the stereotypes, being really intentional around inclusion at the highest level across gender, across race, is really important from an operations standpoint, and also just like welcoming to the sport.